Hello everyone, welcome on our topic videography. So our lesson objectives on this topic is that you should be able to cite the significance of videography and you should be able to relate the use of videography in police work. The term videography is derived from a Latin term video, which means I see or I apprehend, and graphos, which means to write. Pag pinagsama natin yan, videography would refer to the process of capturing moving images using an electronic media. Okay? And electronic media is a medium that requires electricity or digital encoding. So, sakop siya ng digital photography. However, in videography, your subject is moving. Okay, this electronic media actually includes television, radio, and the like. Videography also includes the methods of electronic production and post-production, because in post-production it includes all stages of production occurring after shooting or recording certain individual program segments. Okay, that is the general term, okay, in videography. Pero iba pag sinabi nating forensic videography or crime scene videography. Generally, videography is equivalent to cinematography, and when we say cinematography, it is actually a visual narrative. It is composed of images or recordings that are organized for a movie. Okay? And instead of using a film stock with the means of an analog camera, ang ginagamit in order to record motion pictures or animation is an electronic media. So videography covers digital imaging, gaming, streaming, web streaming, and video blogging. So yung mga naglo-vlog videography yan, under yan ng videography. So it also includes still slideshows. So in videography, the device that should be used is a video camera. Okay, or any device that is capable of recording. So going back to the history of video camera, it was John Logie Baird who invented the earliest recording device. Okay, when we say John Logie Baird, I'll just spell it out: JOHNLOGIE BAIRD. So the earliest recording device that was invented by John Logie Baird is known as the phonovision. Okay, this phonovision is a video camera that is has a separate recorder and a separate playback unit. And then nagkaroon ng innovation where it paves to the creation of video camcorder, a smaller version of your phono vision. So it already has a built-in recorder and playback unit. So I hope you've watched the basics in videography that was uploaded by Mr. Mercado. So magtungo naman tayo sa crime scene videography or forensic videography. Crime scene videography or forensic videography is a lot different from cinematography, because in crime scene videography or forensic videography, there is a strict guidelines that must be followed. And the importance of having or recording the crime scene, okay, is to show the relationship of pieces of evidence. It gives an overview for the purposes of court presentation, and it serves as a moving analysis of the crime scene. Crime scene videography or forensic videography also allows for a documented perspective of a crime scene which cannot be captured in reports, interviews, or photographs. Again, just like crime scene photography, this crime scene videography or forensic videography only serves as a support or supplementary on crime scene documentation. So prior to videotaping, the investigator on case, okay, once there is a reported incident, should walk the designated videographer through the scene. So, ibig sabihin, without marking, without touching anything, moving anything, okay, dapat si videographer must walk through the crime scene already to document the crime scene with before it will be processed by the investigation team. The videos should begin with an overall general view of the scene, showing the building, showing the adjoined and adjacent building or houses on the crime scene to establish the location also where the incident transpired. Okay, so in recording the overall general view of the scene, you would need a skill in overall panning of the crime scene. If it is an indoor crime scene, okay, the video should include an overall pan of the outside location. For example, the building, overall pan of the building before going inside the immediate crime scene. So the recordings, okay, should include the brief preamble by the investigator. This includes the narrator's name, right, the investigator on case, the case number, time, date, and location of the incident. Preamble is actually a brief introduction of the nature of the crime scene. It also contains list of pieces of evidence, and here, in the brief preamble, it should be concise. It should contain a concise description of all rooms, if it is in an indoor crime scene, and evidence to be viewed on tape. Pag sinabi natin concise, you only use few words. Okay? Words that would exactly convey a clear and complete information. Diba? It must be accurate, brief, and concise. Upon completion of the introduction, the brief preamble by the narrator, by which siya yung magvo-voice over, the audio should be disabled already. Okay, once you show the overall pan of the building. The purpose of this is to avoid bias. Okay, because sound creates an emotional appeal, diba? It appeals on our emotion. Ayan. Kaya, didi-disable yung audio. Malay mo, andun pala yung relative, umiiyak, diba? Nagwawala. Ayan. Okay? This is for the purposes of avoiding bias on the jury or on the judge. Okay? So again, the videotaping must begin with the general view of the crime scene and adjoining areas. Ay yung mga katabi niyang mga buildings or houses. So the only exception in disabling the audio, you are allowed to speak, the narrator is allowed to speak if there is an inclusion of explanation of a certain piece of evidence. The narrator must be careful in describing such evidence if it is necessary in order to not create bias. So when the videographer would start filming or recording the crime scene, close-up views and wide-angle views and different kinds of views must be employed in order to show the location of evidence. So, dito na papasok yung skill ng isang videographer. So, I hope you've learned something with the basics of videography that was shared by Mr. Mercado on his recorded video. Okay? The purpose of this is to show the location of pieces of evidence. Kasi nga, sabi natin, the purpose of documenting the crime scene, of crime scene videography in particular, is to show the relationship, the spatial relationship of pieces of evidence that cannot be found on interviews, photographs, and reports. In recording the crime scene, slow camera movements should be employed, okay, such as zooming and panning. After the initial recording of the crime scene, okay, after marking the evidence, ayan, proper marking of evidence, and before you collect the evidence, the videographer must again record the close-up of small pieces of evidence that is found on the crime scene before putting it in appropriate container and surrendering it to the evidence custodian. Together with, kailangan yan, there should always be a photographic scale or measurement in order to illustrate its size. Remember this one, this is important. In crime scene videography, no personnel should be present. The videographer should document the crime scene before anything is touched, before anything is marked or moved, and afterwards, kapag na-video na yun, including the overall, the mid-range, and close-up of the pieces of evidence without any markings, okay, maghintay siya sa labas, and then afterwards, pasok ulit siya after properly marking the evidence. Okay, bago siya kolektahin at ilagay dun sa particular container and surrender to the evidence custodian. Okay? So, yan. The purpose of this, okay, that no personnel should be present in documenting the crime scene in crime scene videography is it could affect the admissibility of that evidence because it might alter or produce an emotional bias, okay, on the judge. Ideally, the angles, the views, okay, that is accomplished by the videographer should be done or should be accomplished by professional trained to walk through. Sino ba yung professionally trained to walk through the crime scene? That is the IOC. O kaya naman yung team leader of the investigation team. Because what you need to remember here is that while conducting the walkthrough, you should not disturb any pieces of evidence that is found in there, okay, to avoid contamination of the crime scene or of the pieces of evidence. Because once it is contaminated, it is not well preserved, then it could affect the admissibility of that evidence in court. And crime scene videography does not actually replace crime scene photography. It just actually supports or serves as a supplementary, okay, on the crime scene documentation. So if you have any questions, clarifications regarding crime scene videography, feel free to put it in the comment section below.